Coffee Conversations about Influencer Marketing is brought to you by Nfluential, a strategic consultancy that takes the guesswork out of influencer marketing for your brand. We provide much-needed strategically crafted frameworks on how to implement influencer campaigns specific to your brand needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fabulous edition of Coffee Conversation about influencer marketing. And as usual, I've got my partner in influence, and Dolly, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Cynthia. How are you doing today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm okay.
And we have a very special guest once again.
As always.
Bronwyn Wheel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the podcast today, Bron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't
It's
think
actually-
anybody does social media marketing and strategy better than you. Been
Of
going
course
through
not.
your work.
No,
It's,
right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I actually woke up this morning thinking this is my first podcast ever that I'm
Oh,
doing.
fantastic. Yay.
And I had to prepare myself and go, when I've watched my Insta stories,
Yeah.
I talk so fast and I like ramble on. So I kind of went, just slow down, just calm yourself down, talk a bit slower. So that's me preparing for today.
We have the same issue.
Exactly,
I had to
yeah.
learn to talk a lot slower just so people can understand me.
But look, don't really worry about it. This is not an interview. This is a conversation.
Oh, I see what you did there,
converse
conversation.
away.
Yeah.
So Bronwyn is CEO of Conversation Station.
Yes.
And please tell us a little bit about yourself and what your brand does.
I was in the financial services industry for 20 years. I worked for Standard Bank in various roles around the marketing team. Picked up a lot of skills, a lot of expertise, and I just decided I wanted to give back. I wanted more out of life. Last year, actually this week last year, so it's been a year since I've left Standard Bank. I opened up my own business called Conversation Station.
Happy
Okay.
anniversary, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ching ching. And it is all about, helping entrepreneurs and small businesses have a voice in the community,
All right.
helping them to, looking at social media, their strategies, content, ideas, to people that are on social media every day. We know it like the back of our hands, but to someone running a business, it's very difficult for them to actually get it right. So it's me just helping them.
All right. And so our conversation today is woven around social media strategy management and the role it plays in influencer marketing. But let's start from the bottom. What is social media strategy and management?
So the strategy is what you start with before you even go onto any social media platform.
All right.
It's understand what you're trying to do. What are your objectives? What are you trying to get right? What are the messages you're talking about? And to who? You have to know who you're talking to and where you'll find them on what platform. It's not a spray and pray approach. It's the roadmap. And then to also know what will success look like so that you can actually measure yourself.
Okay.
The management is actually implementing that strategy. It's the posting, it's the content development, it's the day-to-day management of those platforms and talking and engaging with your customer.
Yeah. I noticed it's very important to always talk about the management bit, because we've got all these brands with 200-page strategies, but then that's not translating into what happens every day and the outcomes that they get from their tactics. So how important is it to always have a balance between the two?
It's definitely important because only after you've been managing a platform for a while will you realize that what's working and what's not working. Your insights about your consumer and your audience have to lead what you talk about and what they want to talk about. It's not what you want to talk about. It's what they want to hear. What they want to know. What are their pain points that you're addressing and how you're helping them.
All right.
And I think also part of why we have you today is because influencer marketing goes hand in hand with social media. And a lot of times brands or people, marketing managers don't think about that. You have influencers that's on social media, but you also need your own social media then to also play ball and kind of know what's going on so they can interact, right? So, and I think that's where I want to go with this is how has social media platforms changed since influencer marketing became such a big thing?
Influencer marketing has been around for many years. I think in the old days
Dawn
it
of
used to be
time.
blogs. I mean, I got 2 blogs, you blog. A lot of people were bloggers, and it was a platform where people could talk to people and just share their opinions, their lives, their world. And I think what's happened, you have to also understand what's happened with social media platforms. You've got decisions by Zuckerberg, like about 2 or 3 years ago, with him saying that we are going to be seeing less of the public content, like brands, businesses, media, and more of your content from your friends, family, and where you connect and he wants people to spend time. It's time well spent on platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not about selling and advertising. So hand in hand with that, influencers and people realize that they've got a bigger say and more reach because people, their content was being seen or prioritized
Yes.
more than what your businesses were. I do think we also need to understand what's going on globally. It's not just social media, because we think social media is the world. It's
Well,
this
yes.
Going globally, the world I think is in a really bad state. Globally, it's in a mess.
Yes.
People have lost trust with business, with leaders, with brands. People
Yeah.
are trusting people more, and you're finding a lot on social media. People are going to people for advice, to people for information, more
Yeah,
than they're
correct.
trusting brands and business
That's
leaders.
true.
I mean, you've got groups on social media like I Know a Guy and I Love Four Ways and all these groups where strangers are actually asking strangers for advice, or, I'm looking for a plumber, I'm looking for someone at school for my kids,
Yeah.
or, what does people think about this? And you're trusting people more than you're actually trusting or going to a brand's page to find that
True.
info.
And I think it is because, to your point, you're part of a community, even
Yes.
though it's not physical like in the old days, but it's online now. And everyone is kind of like-minded. They stay
Yeah.
in the same community. So if I ask you for advice for a school or a plumber,
yeah.
Yeah.
chances are 3 or 4 people in there is going to give me, like, I use this guy every single time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to him. He's amazing. And that's
Yeah.
influencing right there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's quite key what you say about community, because I think people want to feel like they belong to something, to someone, to some kind of group of a tribe. And I think that's where if I'm talking to people every single day, all day about something, I'm going to trust what they say.
No,
Exactly, yeah.
So I think you need to know that Bron's got a fantastic blog about running. I don't run, but I subscribe to your blog because you relate it to like life lessons.
Before anyone thinks that I've run comrades, I haven't.
That was going to be my next question.
Before anyone thinks that I've run a marathon, I haven't. I actually run the 10Ks, the 5Ks, the 21Ks,
Yeah.
and I use the life's lessons. And they can teach me about running, because running teaches me about life, and life teaches me about running. So it's that kind of thing that people can relate to.
Yeah.
It's
Relatability.
It's
again.
funny what you say about people coming to read my blog. The blogs where I write about running, I find people engage, but runners know runners.
Yeah.
My biggest hits I've had on my blog have been where I've blogged about a cough mixture remedy that my mom gave me, because I couldn't run because I had like such a
There
bad
we
cough.
go.
People
Alright.
just want that recipe.
Because they can relate.
I know. The
Yeah.
other one was about coming out of matric and how bad my marks were. Every year at the end of the year, people are searching and Googling, I'm a failure. I failed matric. What's my future going to be? And they come across my blog and they're inspired by it. And it was just about going, hey, like life is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
And how that inspires people.
You see, and I think that plays exactly into the nano micro space of
Totally.
influencers, where they inspire by their lives and they've got a tribe who they resonate with,
Yeah.
Exactly,
which is
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But coming back to strategy of social media marketing, or social media, sorry, how important is it? And I think Cindy touched on that. How important it is to have that strategy is obviously extremely important, because you decide your direction and your voice and who you speak to. But how important is it to have a community manager instead of, I know a lot of brands do this, just give it to the junior in the office to do, or to someone else as like a second job, or just something.
Yeah.
Well, when you have time, take it and answer.
Yeah, and you're seeing that so often.
Yes.
You have to understand and be clear about your objectives, because your objectives are about what your business is trying to do and the success and the strategies of what you're trying to get right.
Correct.
So you have to be clear about what you have to do, what you have to say, and where you say it. You can't talk about everything on social media. You have to be
Unfortunately
clear
not.
on what you talk about,
Yeah.
clear content pillars, you have to be clear about what the role of each platform plays in your strategy, and then to hand it over to some junior person or someone who hasn't been part of that whole,
Yeah.
is quite
Or just
risky.
experience-wise.
You can be the most highly skilled person on TikTok and Instagram, but it doesn't mean you understand how to have conversations that translate
Yes.
into return of investment. There's a
Exactly.
big difference between that.
No, exactly.
So where do you see influencer marketing fit in the whole social media landscape? I think most of the time we know that Google search and Facebook generally takes the biggest piece of digital marketing. So in your opinion, where does influencer marketing fit into that whole spectrum?
I think when people go onto Google, it's with intent. I'm looking for something specific. I find what I need to do. I do my research.
Yeah.
But where they turn to make that final decision, a lot of people are turning to people to kind of go, I can decide between A and B or C. What do you think? What is your review? What have you seen? What have you experienced?
And I guess the biggest thing is there's social proof already. Somebody has used
Social
it.
proof.
And,
Look,
Totally.
70% of people look at social media before they make a big purchase, and 49% people look to influencers to help them, and that's the stats. It's there.
And I often find out, I don't know if anyone else uses a TripAdvisor, and you go onto that site and you're looking at hotels. The brand or the hotel might post their own pictures of the hotel, but it's the photos that people that have stayed there post that you trust more because they've seen it.
It's when a referral.
Exactly. When you go to the restaurant, they can have the most beautiful Instagram grid, but it's when people are posting their actual photos that you go, well, that's what's actually being served.
No, exactly. And again, it goes back to that peer-to-peer recommendation.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear what the brand's telling me they have. They're going to tell me they're
lying
amazing.
to me. Of course they are.
Of course, but my friends.
Well, they're not always going to lie to you.
but they want to put their best foot forward.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And when a brand is planning an influencer marketing campaign, how important is it for the social media team to closely work with the influencer marketing team?
It's very, very important. I mean, you have to understand what exactly the objectives are. What is that brand trying to get across? And, and it's not a one size fits all, and it's not the same message for every brand and every product.
Yeah.
It could be something that, the brand needs awareness and reach. It could be something new that they're trying to get across and they need a lot of people to know. It could be something more intricate where there's detail that needs to be translated and explained. It could be something that needs to be demonstrated to people to see how it works.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's important that the content that's created does that job.
Yeah.
It's not just one, you don't just choose an influencer and go, we'll talk about it. It could be something that you need to be creating that actually, demonstrate what the actual final objective is for the brand.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I think, to your point, the social media team is so integral because, and I think before we started recording, we were talking about this, where when you have an influencer campaign running and no one tells the social media team, there's a disconnect when people start asking about it to the brand because the community manager is the one who answers that. And if they don't have the information, your campaign can fall flat because they don't have the answers or they're not equipped to do that.
No, totally. It all has to work. Social media cannot work in isolation of everything else you're doing. It has to be that entire brand experience, offline, online. I have to live and feel that brand with every touch point. Even the call center, even when you phone, even when you talk to anybody, that brand needs to come across as, what are you trying to say? I need to buy it. I need to believe it.
No, that's a great point. We see a lot of digital agencies implementing influencer marketing campaigns, right? I mean, PR agencies are doing it, digital agencies are doing it, and then obviously we have our specialized agencies, influencer marketing agencies doing it. Do you think that in general, and this is your opinion, just being in the space, that digital agencies have those resources and they know how to do it? Because from where I'm sitting, they're more experts in programmatic buying. Now all of a sudden they're experts in influencer marketing.
I think compared to the United States, South Africa's got a long way to go still. I think we're still new at it. I think we're still learning. I think some people are trying to get it right. I think I'm seeing a lot of people still using the numbers game. So if you've got more followers, you got more reach and more influence, which I think is not really the point.
We know it's not true though. Either popularity, influence, bought followers,
fake followers. I also think everyone's doing the same thing. I don't know about anyone else, but when someone gets something and they unbox it and they're showing picture and they're showing this and this and this, and I'm not really sure if that's really doing it justice.
You know what, I've asked this question on my Instagram stories before because I'm not a big fan of the unboxing thing. I think it works fantastically well in certain industries, like tech industries and stuff like that. People want to see what it is and what the new tech is, and then it sets it up for the content for the next 2-3 weeks where they use it. I think that's amazing. Sorry. And then but when it comes to other industries, I'm just like, guys, we don't care what you just got as a press drop. Show us if it works or not. That's what I'm interested in.
And I think it loses a bit of the authenticity because I'm kind of going, so someone sent you something, you didn't actually go and buy it on your own. You were sent it and now you love it. How can you all of a sudden...
This brings up...
You love it immediately. How can you love everything that gets sent to you?
Maybe you love the box.
The packaging is great. I can do an entire podcast on this. Maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
But I think that irks a lot of people where a lot of authenticity is lost with some influencers. The ones who get it right actually, and then more smaller guys do it amazingly well, where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, someone sent me something, and I think that's normal. Someone thought that I am good enough to send me things and they trust my opinion, and I'm going to do some valued things for my audience who's going to love it or they're going to hate it, and if I don't like it, I'm going to say so.
Yeah.
But then some of the guys, like I say, in the beauty industry, I think is particularly bad at this, where they get some, oh, this is amazing, and then a week later they're like, my skin looks amazing. Well, we know your skin has 28-day cycles. Show me in 2 months if your skin is still great.
Yes, be honest.
Be honest.
Most of you know that Nfluential is our podcast sponsor. But did you know that my co-host Anne heads up the agency? And that is the first ever boutique agency in South Africa that specializes in developing strategy for influencer marketing. Anne and the team are experts in the field, and they've spent years honing their skills and knowledge about influencer marketing and at some of the country's biggest PR and media agencies. The moment that you think you might want an influencer campaign, make sure to call or email them first, because without strategy, you might not have the outcomes that you would like and are looking for. In addition to talking all things influence on this podcast, and also puts together the fantastic Nfluential newsletter that comes out every month. And this is another way for you to keep up to date with the industry. The link to latest newsletter is in the show notes. Check it out, and if you like, please subscribe. Anne's contact details are also on there. Let's keep the conversation flowing.
It's all about authenticity and choosing the correct influencers for the correct brands and screen them and vet them to be like, and I think also it's like, if you don't like it, don't be horrible about it, but please like be honest and tell us why you don't like it, so we can also improve our product. You know,
and be patient. I find that everybody gets sent the same thing at the same time, and within that same week everybody is loving it and using it, and then it dies, and you're kind of going, be patient with your brand, be patient with people, and allow people to kind of grow with that and use it, come back, talk about it. But when you're seeing everybody talking about the same thing at the same time, it just loses a little bit of credibility for me.
That's a valid point.
That's a huge point.
Media.
And I think again that comes down to strategy with influence marketing, to space it out. Be like, we're going to send 2 influencers this week, 3 the next week, 4 the following, and then space it out. So for 2 months, you've got fantastic content.
Brands get tired of their adverts and their marketing a lot quicker than what customers do, because customers are seeing so much. So you've got to understand that you might think, oh, I've seen that ad 100 times. Your customer sometimes hasn't even seen it, or needs to see it a lot more to kind of get that message.
And again, targeting the right people, so it actually likes it. Okay, so do you treat influencer content differently to us, or would you advise that social media managers treat that content differently when they're repurposing it for their own brands?
I think brands still need to have their own hygiene content, stuff that they talk about that's true to their brand and what they need to talk about all the time, and build their brand.
So you're always on content.
Always on content. And then understand that those campaigns are like that hero content that comes along, that you make a noise about it, and then it becomes part of your brand. So a lot of the time you have to treat it a little bit different, because it is something new. You need a lot more attention drawn to something. You need a message to come across. But brands still need to be able to have that always on their own content that is them.
Right.
No, exactly.
And so brand is wholly anchored on values. How important is it for influencer content to align with the brand's own social media voice? Or should it be different so that it creates that excitement and attention?
I think the values need to align, and the message needs to be the same. But I think the way the message is translated and communicated can be definitely different.
So your packaging,
I think that's why we choose influencers, because they have a way that they've been able to talk to their audience in a way that hooks them, which could be very different to the brand. It's I saw a saying the other day is that if they can't trust you, they can't hear you.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. I know.
Love that. We put it on
And I think those influencers have already done the work to build up their trust, and they're hearing those messages. By a brand going, only you have to say it like we say it, you have to say it like this or like that. It does create a problem where you're kind of going, but that's not you anymimore. And then people see right through that.
And communities do pick that up.
Totally. For sure.
Exactly. And I read an article the other day about marketing managers who feel, obviously it's your baby, this brand, and they feel very much connected to it. I mean, you've been there. But some brand managers really want to control everything that influences. And I'm like, go get a print ad then, because it's going to do the same thing. We always say, yes, put in measures in place and obviously the do's and don'ts and have the framework.
Yeah.
But within that, give them freedom to be
Yes.
the creative directors that they are and they do
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And they build a following because people want to see and listen to them.
That's
so
it.
let them
Yes,
do
that's
it.
it.
So in your opinion, does influencer content perform better or worse than branded content that you push out?
I think it performs better because your audience is a lot more receptive to your message. They are talking to you quite, more than they are talking to the brands.
Yes.
People buy from people, they talk to people, they trust people. So
Yeah.
I think when your influencer says something, you are going to sit up and listen. You are going to understand what that message they're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So I think it actually performs better.
We see this every day. I just
Yeah.
want an expert to confirm it for us. And then when it comes to user-generated content, which in the biz we refer to as UGC, do you like using brand fans or brand followers when they post content about your customers? Do you use that, and why?
I think influencers are some of the most creative and innovative people.
Yes.
And that's why they've got the following they do, because they educate, they entertain, they inspire. They've got something for you to see when you come to their platform. Their content is they've taken a lot of effort in creating content that they know will hook people.
Yes.
So I think user-generated content is fab. It's actually sometimes, I think when you're working on a brand, and I saw this at Standard Bank, working in the same with the same brand, you need someone fresh. You need someone who comes and looks at something differently, says it differently, and I think so user-generated content is coming from a different angle that perhaps you haven't even thought of.
And even if it's just kind of one of your customers going, I've had such a great experience with Standard Bank and one of the employees. I feel like that also boosts it so much, and I see so few brands actually using that content and just retweeting it or reposting it and saying another happy customer. Because I mean, it also builds that trust with a community to go, they didn't pay this person to say this. This is not from their brand pages, but look at the great experience this person has had.
It's funny you mention about employees, because I think that's one of the things that businesses and brands don't use enough of. It's their own staff, because their own staff are actually seeing what's going on. They're living that brand. They're working there every day, and a lot of the time they love that brand. So I do think that's a gap.
So to the point, employee advocacy is seeing a huge rise at the moment, and even at Infinity Group, there's the internship has started this year, where they literally work with brands with their employees to create in-house influencers, so to speak.
Very nice.
Because it is just building that expertise and the trust, and you see a face behind the brand.
But also brand building starts from within. And
Yes.
that's just
Of course.
amplifying it through a resource that you have. And your employees are your biggest
and also,
arsenal.
if your employees are happy and they say that, people are also like, oh, they treat their employees great.
Exactly.
I love this brand.
But another thing is that your employees can then give you honest feedback and go, hey, guy, a brand might be quite nervous to say, an influencer might be too nervous to say it online or not understand if they do say it. But your staff can go, hey, this doesn't work. This is actually, I don't like this about this product, or I find you need to change it, or, use them to give you the proper feedback, because they've got a vested interest in it.
I think brands often forget that their employees are also their consumers a lot of times.
Oh, yes.
So they go through the consumer journey and they can see the hiccups.
Let's talk about usage rights when it comes to user-generated content. Are there any official guidelines that brands need or can adhere to?
I think if you are using user-generated content, you have to ask permission and you have to give credit. But likewise, influencers need to actually be honest when they are talking about branded stuff, and they've got those stuff that they're unboxing. Use the hashtag, advertising, gift, whatever it is. Be quite clear.
Coming up,
I see a lot of people do it, but some people are still not doing it. Some of the big names, some of the big influencers still don't do it.
Of people don't do it. I put this on my Instagram stories yesterday because I was on Twitter and Instagram, and I saw quite micro to macro guys who just doesn't do it. And us who are in the industry can spot it a mile off, but the general public don't. I'm like, guys, just be transparent.
You're right,
what are your top 3 tips for brands that are busy with their 2020 social media strategies?
I think be ready for change. I think the social media platforms change constantly, and they're changing more and more regularly. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. The algorithms change, and then they don't like this, and then they change that, and they introduce something new. So I think nothing's cast in stone. Be ready for change. be more focused. You can't talk about everything. You have to actually narrow it down. There's so much noise out there.
God, it's so
Decide
hard.
on something to talk about, because customers, and I think when you're deciding on what to talk about, it's the understanding of what customers want to hear. What are their pain points, and what are the solutions that you're offering them? Not about what you want to talk about.
So again, it comes down to know who you're speaking to.
Know who you're
Exactly,
speaking to.
yeah.
And I think maybe the last one is be more daring and take more risks. I mean,
Yes,
you know,
please.
take a chance. You know, use Facebook Live. Be out there. You use platforms that you're not used to. Try something new.
No, exactly. Guys, if you want to keep updated with algorithm changes in platforms, please follow Bron on Instagram. She posts things, and her blog as well. It's just like, here it is. Here's the change. It's all you need to know.
Change again.
Change again. I'm just like, please, Bron, tell me everything. To that, what are your predictions for 2020 social media? Because I see a lot of things are changing. 2019 for me was like the year of changing, on the cusp of changing. And I just want to see things settle in 2020, please.
No, and it's not going to change. Be ready for change. I think most probably you have to understand customer insights and people insights to understand why people do the things they do.
So psychological.
Totally. And the thing is that we're competing with all the other mediums for time and attention.
Yes.
And I think the one prediction is we're going to see a lot more of these short form engaging video clips.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
not platform dependent. It's not like it's going to be TikTok or that or that. It's going to be it's the 15-second quick short engaging snippet.
Interesting.
I think we are going to be seeing more people using I hate the word authenticity.
I know, and I think with influence, like the word influence has become a bit of a swear word sometimes. So it's authenticity because everyone's like authentic.
But I think people are wanting raw, unfiltered.
Yes.
Be you. Let me see the real you. Let me see behind the scenes. Let me see the person that unfiltered. Show up as yourself.
And I do think 2019 was great for that because you saw that shift from that very curated, polished looks, especially on Instagram, where people now have the stories to show.
Yeah.
Not everything is as it seems, and everyone is fallible, and everyone has issues, and it's okay.
Every now and then I'll go on with an Insta story and I'm like, okay, I'm not using a filter. It feels like I've got to tell people that if they're looking at me going, yes, I am this, unfiltered, I am this unpolished, but be daring. It kind of feels so liberating to just go on and, be yourself. And I think, with the removal of likes, like we're seeing it now with Instagram. And
I love it.
It is going to force brands and businesses and people to kind of go, well, I'm competing on a level playing field with everyone now. If people like my stuff, they will like it. But it forces you to not just post for the sake of posting, not just post because you need to have a presence and you need to fill up a content calendar, but post stuff that people like and engage with. It's going to be creative,
and
be
this is why I
experimental.
love it, because you need to add value to your timelines.
That's
now.
it, yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, I have to post once a day, every day, let's just post and use an influencer with 1 million followers and no one listens to them.
Yeah.
Now brands are going to have to step back and say, like, who's got the most resonance? Who's got the most engagement? And actually choose very wisely with the content and the influence that they use.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh. Any other predictions?
I'm going to try use TikTok.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if anyone who's listening has tried to use TikTok. I've downloaded it for research purposes, obviously.
Of course.
And I literally spent an hour on it and I was like, I am too old for this. I don't understand what these kids are doing or the pop culture references.
But I did see something, Facebook's very clever. Facebook's not going to let anyone just steal their... So I saw they've started to look in something called Reels.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
It's kind of like it's kind of like the TikTok version of, that, of course they're going to do something.
Yes.
Yeah.
But hey, let's see.
I mean, it's like Instagram bringing in stories that's killing Snapchat.
But don't you find it funny that people will take their TikTok video and share it on Instagram? It's kind of like
it's where their tribe's already built.
Yes.
And I've seen people going, please go follow me on TikTok. So it's like this cross over.
Yeah.
Look, and I'm like, the more platforms, the better. Everyone's got a different niche, right?
No, sure.
So,
I'm still a Twitter fan. I know it's angry.
You and
I know
I are from the generation who was brought up on Twitter, social media. That
you
was
can
our
say
first.
it. You can say it, and we're old. You can say it.
We are wise. We're not old. But that's where my big tribe is. And when people go like, where do you? And I'm like, Twitter. That's where I have my most reach, my most conversation.
If you're not enjoying Twitter and it's too angry and it's too noisy,
unfollow those people.
Clean up. You should be doing that regularly with all your platforms.
That's a great tip.
The platforms are all different. People go to platforms for different reasons.
Yes.
Instagram's my glossy magazine where I love that whole eye candy. I want to see gorgeous food and beautiful people.
And that's where I put my best self on.
My filter.
Yes.
Facebook is where I connect with. I want to actually belong, in groups and my neighborhood and my hobbies. But Twitter is where I want to talk. And put
It's
it.
my
I want to talk.
conversation.
It's my,
Yeah.
and I talk now about what's relevant now, what's in the news. It's my fast
Yeah.
information, and I think brands have to understand it's not a spray and pray approach. You're finding
Yeah.
so many people who will post the same thing
One
across
piece of content.
all the brands,
Yeah.
the same
And I also
content
always
type.
say, and that's fine, even with influencers. If you have one piece of content, that's fine, but package it differently
Yes.
for every
Yeah.
every platform. 'Cause
Yes,
it's different.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, Bronnie, do you have any advice for someone who wants a career in social media or just want to leave their corporate job and do what you did, start your own thing?
The biggest piece of advice I can offer is just know how you're going to add value. Know what makes you different. There's so many people going through this midlife crisis.
Can we please call it a quarter life crisis?
Quarter
We're
life.
living
There
a
we
lot
go.
longer these days.
You know, people are desperate. They want more out of life. They want that freedom. They want to give back. They want to make a difference. But you need to understand what value you're going to add, because that is how you hook business. That is how people trust you and trust what you're offering can help them in their businesses.
I do love that.
If you are going into social media, just to know that there's no on-off button. Even with, well, actually any small business.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
running your own small business, it's always on, and it's hard. But I've never felt more alive in my life.
So this is my question. We all want that freedom, which is great, but you also need to know what is sacrificing for that freedom.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
And there's
Yeah.
always that
Yeah.
that what do you get for what you want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, where you just like it's always on with a small business. But can we please agree that you have to have some boundaries so you don't burn out?
Yes. Yes. Totally.
Okay, you heard it, Joe. Don't work 24/7.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. That was Coffee Conversations about influencer marketing.
Thank you, Bronnie.
Thank
Please
you.
follow this conversation on our new Facebook page. It's called Coffee Conversations about influencer marketing.
Please like and share.
Yeah, exactly.
Please.
And download this and all other episodes on iTunes, and please spread the love. Bronwyn, where can our listeners find you?
www.conversationstation.co.za,
Okay.
as well as on all the social media platforms, Conversation Station, or Bronnie W on Twitter.
Okay, thank you. And for kick-ass influencer marketing strategy, where can they
Well,
find you?
influential without the I, because we're
Alright.
different. That's
Yeah.
where we stand out. We start with
There
the
we
N. Influential SA on Twitter and LinkedIn. Please follow our conversation there. And then personally, and Dolly across the board.
Okay, ladies, thank you for joining me.
Thank you,
Thank you very
for
much.
joining
Thank
me.
you.
Bronwyn.
Everybody
you.
at home, we love you and we have to leave you. Until next time,
Till next
goodbye.
time, guys. Goodbye.